Sauce, and this is the Awesome Sauce Comics podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the Superman curse and the death of George Reeves. And I have a good friend of the show, Dr. Shelley. Is it Care or Kiar?
It's Care.
It's Care?
Yeah, doesn't look like it, but...
talking computers and the way they pronounce stuff. Alright, now that I got that cleared up. How you doing today, Shelley?
I'm doing great, Adam. How are you?
I can't complain.
Alright. Well, thanks for having me back on the show.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's been about almost 2 years.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not. I had you on in October 2016.
Amazing. I guess time's flying, my friend. What can I say?
Time waits for no one.
That is the truth. Certainly not for poor George Reeves, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So, I am a huge comic book nerd, as everyone knows. I'm also a huge Superman fan, and a big fan of the 1950s Superman show starring George Reeves. And, very fascinated by his death, and I don't believe the official story, and I don't think it was suicide. And I think it was a very elaborated, covered-up murder. You know, 2 plus 2 does not equal 4 in this. And since you're an expert on curses and psychic abilities and ghosts and past lives and all that, I would like to get your take on it, as well as the curse in general.
Well, yeah, I think this whole thing is really, it's a fascinating story. I'm always very interested in curses, and I believe there's 2 things that go on with any curse. One is, sometimes there are coincidences that happen to people that can then be attributed as curses, and then other times I do believe there is, entities and energies in the world that can actually come in and curse people. So in this case of the Superman curse, George Reeves, well, you really know more about this even than I do, this particular story, because George Reeves was really, his untimely death was so just out of left field that it began the, let's just call it, urban legend that then fell over to all the other different actors and people who were part of the Superman franchise through the years. I mean, one of the biggest problems was that a lot of these actors, once they act in Superman, and George Reeves was in that boat too, you do get typecast, and then maybe they thought that they weren't getting any other jobs. So that probably happens to any really famous person who's playing an iconic figure, but...
Yeah, I mean, Adam West, for 20 years, was typecast. The kid who played Harry Potter got typecast. It happens when you play a larger-than-life, iconic role. But in the case of the Superman curse, there's 2 things that don't add up to me. One, the so-called curse by Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel, the creators of Superman, didn't invoke the so-called curse until about 1975. George Reeves passed in 59. And, as far as it being suicide, he was about to start his own production company. He had a movie in production, and he had another season of Superman about to go. So it seems like his career was about to rebound. I just don't buy it.
There's no way. I mean, again, it's kind of he said, she said, but they were having a party over at his house. He supposedly he was basically having a long-term affair with the wife of an MGM executive who they believe actually murdered his first wife.
Yeah, actually.
For divorce.
Yep. Tony Mannix was, bought him his house, basically helped him out when he was having the financial issues. I put George in the Pimping Hall of Fame, but that's another story.
Well, he had Eddie's approval because Eddie was going out and doing what he wanted. It was kind of like being married to the mob.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why he's my childhood hero. He played Superman, had a girlfriend. He, basically had the approval of the woman's husband to go on with this. I was like, yeah, go Mr. Reeves.
Right, because Eddie was doing God knows what, and he probably just said, well, George is going to take care of my wife, fine. Just as long as they keep it a little bit on the down low, I'm just going to turn a blind eye to that.
Yep.
But the thing is, something changed, and he broke it off with her and then went and got engaged to Lenore Lemon, and I think that's when things started turning south.
See, that's what I think, too.
I was doing some research, and you can confirm this or deny this, but apparently they were they were out to, supposedly either out to dinner or they went to a wrestling match, and he was with Lenore, and they got into an argument.
Yep.
People saw that. They went home. There were people in the house, and apparently Lenore was downstairs going, well, he's so depressed, he's probably going to go up and kill himself.
Yeah, and actually that's always been the famous, I don't believe I'm going to give credit to Geraldo Rivera of all freaking people, but, in the Unsolved Mysteries documentary I've always watched, that's the famous line. It's George, he's gonna go kill himself. Okay, how do you know that? And then there's a bunch of bullet holes in the floor and in the ceiling too.
And then they just brushed it off to some kind of suicide. There's no way he would have killed himself. So there's either she hired Lenore. Okay, here's what could have happened. This is what I'm thinking, like logically, not like as a channel. Let's just say, Lenore found out he really didn't break it off with Tony Mannix, and now she was pissed off. She hired a hitman to go up there and whack him. That's one theory. Or Tony could have been up there. Maybe she wasn't really listed as being somebody who was on the property. Or, I mean, if she did it, if Tony had killed him, then I would think Eddie would have had to come in and fix it, because he was known as the fixer.
Yep.
If a star got into controversy, he went and fixed it. And fixing it could be God knows what, because he was doing it mafia style. Bada bing, bada boom, But I think that it seems more likely to me if Lenore was downstairs babbling about it, if that's even true, that she might have hired somebody to do it because she was so angry. I don't believe he had completely finished with Tony.
Neither do I. It's just, this is a very fascinating, part of Hollywood history.
It really is interesting. I mean, now you had asked me before we did the show if I wanted to channel George Reeves and ask him who killed him.
Yeah.
And when I did that the other day, and when I've been tuning into him, surprisingly, I do not believe he knows who killed him.
Wow.
As a soul. I think it was very fast and confusing. He did not kill himself, but he does not know exactly who killed him. I don't think it was anyone who was necessarily familiar. Somebody could have gotten into the house.
That's always been the other theory, that someone got into the house, did it in split.
And I think it was very confusing. Like, if you were, like if, let's say you were in a room, I mean, you're just minding your own business, all of a sudden somebody's there. I mean, it's very confusing, very fast. I don't believe that his consciousness is aware of who did it, other than to say that, no, he definitely did not do this. And unfortunately, at this point, this has happened so long ago, this is just going to be one of those mysteries that they're never going to be able to solve, because, of course, all these people are dead. But what it did was the weirdness of it, it just gave rise to this whole idea, well, let's look at all the other ill misfortunes that have happened to everybody else who was involved with Superman. And they were talking about, like, Kirk Allen. They said that he never got any other work either. Okay, I mean, I can see that. And then he died of Alzheimer's at the age of 88. I mean, I understand that. I don't really think that's a curse. I just think that...
That's so coincidental. The Christopher Reeves thing, I think, is just an unfortunate accident.
Yes.
However, there has been a lot of other deaths, that contributed to the curse. Marlon Brando and his misfortunes.
Right.
Margot Kidder's mental breakdown of 95. Richard Pryor's death was linked to the curse.
Yeah, and then there was a little kid named Lee Quigley. He played the baby in the Christopher Reeve.
He died of huffing, I believe it was.
Yeah, they were calling it like solvent abuse, which basically means he was glue sniffing. Well, I mean, he was 14 years old. He was probably doing a stupid thing that all kinds of kids have done, and unfortunately, it killed him. I don't really think that's a curse, per se, other than just sheer stupidity, so.
Yeah, I mean, because there's other actors who I know personally, who are friends of the podcast, who haven't been affected by the curse. Brendan O'Ralph and Dean Cain.
Exactly. Now, the other way to look at it, though, I mean, aside from, like, entities and those kinds of things that are haunting things that really curse houses or whatever, I mean, okay, so you played an iconic figure and now you've been typecast. Okay, well, shouldn't you just be blessed and grateful that you had the opportunity to play a character that's probably in reruns that you're probably continuing to make royalties on for the rest of your life? I would call that a blessing.
And beyond your lifetime?
Exactly. Most actors aren't even going to get a gig, let alone a gig that pays like that. I mean, so I think of that as a blessing.
Yeah.
The George Reeves thing is, he was a player, and
Yeah.
I don't know if I call that a curse either, though, but I do call it a mysterious murder that is unfortunately and will always be unsolved.
Alright, I want to ask you about the other, murder that you emailed me about. The other thing you said that Eddie may have been connected to. What was the actress's name? Right now I'm drawing What?
What I had researched was that his wife, Bernice, she was, they worked together for a long time, and of course he was catting around with all the other women, and so she was about to go file for divorce, but before she actually could file the papers, she suddenly died in a mysterious car accident. And they attributed that to the fact that he, maybe not him personally by his hand, but that he actually whacked her or had a mob hit put out on her so that she couldn't leave him.
I heard it.
They always thought he was connected to it.
Yeah. Wasn't there also some film director that he had a link to be, getting murdered too?
I think he did.
Paul something?
Yes. Let me think if I can find that. I know what you're talking about, yes, because he was a fixer. What does that really mean?
Just means we got a problem gets solved by any means necessary.
Exactly. I know I did read that somewhere, and I don't know who it was, but I can't remember.
Yeah, same here.
But yes.
Let me ask you about another famous Hollywood/political curse. Do you think the Kennedy family was cursed?
Yeah, I actually do. I do a lot of past life regression work, and sometimes there's another way to do, like instead of going into your own past lives, you can actually go into what I call genealogical past lives, where you can travel back in time over the ancestors, like either on your father or mother's side. And so I really believe that there is something to be said for the sins of the father, and it had been speculated that their great-great-grandfather, was a bootlegger and did a lot of unsavory activities. And so even though they became the golden children of the government and everything, to a certain degree, I believe that they were afflicted by something that was carried over through their ancestors.
That is fascinating.
you know, some of it could, again, like, you know, we know Kennedy was catting around with Marilyn Monroe. And,
Yeah.
You know, and I think the other piece, like JFK Jr., I mean, God, like, the most gorgeous guy in the world, he was engaged, he had everything going for him. But there is another problem there, which is like, you know, these rich people, I think they think they're invincible, and I think they can just go do whatever they want and nothing's going to happen to them. And so, you know, he was being a fool. I mean, everybody knew it. He wasn't taking proper safety precautions, so I don't know if that's as much attributed to the curse, but I definitely think that the family has definitely had a series of bad luck and unfortunate events that energetically could have been brought over by some of the things that their grandfather did that I don't think have fully come to light.
Oh, wow. That's very fascinating. And let me ask you about something I've been researching and get your thoughts on this. The Kardashian curse.
The which curse?
The Kardashian curse.
Really? Okay, what did you research about it?
Well, basically, the great-grandmother of the Kardashian women basically went to 3 witches and, you know, asked for physical beauty, fame, and fortune for her ancestors. And they gave it to her. I don't know how much credence I get to it because, you know, I found this on the Alex Jones website of all places.
Wow.
I guess Alex had some free time from his usual conspiracy stuff, you know, and put this up there.
Wow. I actually met them several years ago. I was at Dancing with the Stars when Kim was there, and I met her and her mother.
Oh, wow. How were they in real life?
The mother was actually really sweet. Kim, well, kind of into herself, but, you know, it is what it is, so.
All right, well, like I said,
yeah, they definitely are, you know, beautiful ladies. I think they have had some work done. I don't know. I mean, I haven't heard that, actually. I find that really
I'll send you the link.
Possible.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I think that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, that whole idea that we could go make a deal with the devil or whatever, sell our soul to the devil for these things like the crossroads. You know, you go out and you want fame and fortune and you're willing to do anything for it. I mean, they've definitely got something going.
Yeah, but don't people realize that the devil? Yeah, but don't people realize that the devil actually collected every favor that you promised him, though?
I don't know if they realize it at the time.
Yeah. I mean, the devil will never lie to you. He'll give you everything he tells you he'll give you, but, you know, there is that famous line from Milton. Better to rule in hell than ever live in heaven.
Yeah.
So, I was always told to be careful what you wish for.
Exactly. I mean, it is amazing to me. I mean, I think back to, like, you know, a lot of these Hollywood people back in the day, I mean, I don't know if people remember this, but there was a time when there was movie stars and TV stars, and they were being paid a ton of money, and then they decided to go complain and go on strike, and so then they decided to start reality TV, and they realized that they could pay nobody's nothing to get on TV and make fools out of themselves, and that we were just as excited to watch them as we were to watch these big-named actors, and that's the reason. That was the beginning of the end of the film industry, the TV industry. That's why you have movie stars on TV now, if they can get the gig. Because the Kardashians have no talent, but they're so weird. It's like watching a train wreck or a car accident. We just can't turn away.
Actually, I think that's what eventually gave birth to, and I'm not going to bite the hand that feeds me, but I think that's what gave birth to YouTube and, you know, the way entertainment has just changed in the last 25 years.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, because I've been writing books for so long. You know, back in the day, I was publishing books of my own before it was cool, you know, and now you can do whatever you want. You can have your podcast like you're doing. And I think it is, I like the change that's been made because it gives voice to everybody instead of the elite few. But within that, then you've got these kind of gorgeous but yet untalented people. They've got money, they can go do their plastic surgery or whatever they're doing, and then they're on TV, and, you know, you're free to watch them or not watch them, but for whatever reason, people watch it, so it keeps going.
I can't complain. I was a fan to a point when I just, didn't have the time to watch anymore.
Yeah, I'm a real big fan of Big Brother. I watch that one all the time. I have my own.
I just got a casting notice for it the other day. I was actually thinking of trying out for it.
That would be the only reality show I think I would want to do, other than maybe The Amazing Race.
I would have a better time with Big Brother, just because I can't run.
Yeah.
I'd be the first cast member who died on The Amazing Race.
Oh, but yeah, right now, one thing that I get upset about though is right now they've got the Celebrity Big Brother going on, so sometimes, and they will cast
+1 800
people that became famous as reality TV stars. They will only start casting these mid to low range celebrities instead of just letting everybody have a chance at it. Because I think it's cool that you just pull people out of their living room and take them and do that. So I like it.
Yeah, it's great. I want to ask you about the, something I saw you on Shatner.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations on that. That was awesome.
Thank you. That was super cool.
And I'd like to know more about the Winchester house.
Yeah, I was, a few years ago, I was asked to go on William Shatner's Weird or What show, which unfortunately is not on the air. Unfortunately, also, I didn't get to meet him because I absolutely adore him. I've loved him since Star Trek. I love everything he's done since. He's so funny. But he's got a show where one of the segments I was asked to speak on was on the Winchester curse. And basically what this was the man who invented the Winchester rifle had passed away, and his wife was supposedly cursed, and so they wanted me to make a commentary on it. Well, he invented the rifle, and after the two of them were making tons and tons of money, of course, a bunch of misfortunes. It was kind of like what happened to some of the Superman cursed people. In a short period of time, their daughter died, their father-in-law died, the husband, the Winchester inventor himself, passed away, and Sarah was by herself, completely devastated because all this happened within a very, very short period of time. And so she apparently went to a psychic, and then this gets in what I talked about on the show. I've had yes, I give readings, and I think you can tune into certain things, but I think that the people who do readings have a real responsibility not to just be babbling and making up nonsense, because what happened here was this woman went to a reader, and he started telling her that she was basically being haunted by all of the spirits who had ever been killed by a Winchester, and that the only way to appease them was to build a house for them to live in where they could all stay. And so she started building this huge house, and she thought, since there's more and more people dying every day from these guns, I'll just keep building the house as long as I live and make it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger so that they'll always be appeased and I won't be cursed. But she ended up becoming, theoretically insane, living in this house, having these construction people there around the clock, putting in trapdoors, putting in staircases that led to nowhere to supposedly fool the spirits so that they would leave her alone. And to me, where she may or may not have been cursed initially, she ended up becoming cursed by listening and receiving the advice of that psychic. And I think that's kind of where she went wrong. And I do believe then once you start building a house, you're opening up a door, that's when, unlike what I've heard in the Superman curse, I really believe once she started contacting spirits in the house or believing that they were there, she is then communicating with them, opening up a vortex by which those energies really did start to come in there and then really was cursed. But it began with something that was said to her by the intuitive.
Wow, that's extremely fascinating.
There's a new movie out right now on this. Helen Mirren, the Academy Award winner, is playing the Winchester lady. I haven't seen this movie yet, but I've got to go see it.
Oh, wow. Cool. And the house is seven stories tall?
Yeah, it's I think like over 24,000 square feet, and
Holy
7
cow.
stories tall, and finally now, of course, it's done. I don't know if it's open to the public right now or not. I think it was for a time, and I don't know if it still is.
I want to go back to the West Coast. I may have to check that out.
Yeah.
Like I said, if I can go to, the last time I went out there, I went to all the graves of like dead celebrities and left flowers.
Cool.
I went to like where all the Barrymores are buried and where the Three Stooges were buried.
Oh yeah. Cool.
You know, so you also had some update on the Shelley's Frankenstein book thing.
Yeah, I've just been studying for many years also along these same lines. Just the fact that like in fiction novels, there's a lot more truth in fiction than what people think. And I've been having a lifelong fascination with Frankenstein and the life of Mary Shelley.
Yeah.
That, in real life, like there's a lot of things in the literature that are actually just complete parallel mirrors to her real life. With, for example, her mother basically died after childbirth and left her. And so there's one theory that the Frankenstein monster is really, let's just say, a subconscious reflection about how she feels about herself. She was left with a father who really didn't want her, didn't really know what to do with her. Her father ran off with this woman and married her, and she kind of had a miserable childhood and was treated like a creature who nobody wanted, and who the creature believed was the instrument of her mother's demise.
Oh, wow.
And then, like, Victor Frankenstein, so she was real vulnerable, and her father was William Godwin, a famous literary figure, and her mother had been a famous feminist writer, and very, very famous, very renowned, and even in those days. And so people would come over to her father's house just worshiping him and just throwing themselves at his feet, including the at the time nobody poet Percy Shelley. So he would come over, and he was married, but he was also a player, and so he seduced the young Mary Shelley, and they basically ran off for a trip around the continent as an unmarried couple, and she was basically having an affair with this married man, and her father just disowned her after this. And so they ended up, his wife, Shelley's wife, ended up committing suicide as a result of this disgrace. And then Mary Shelley and Percy Shelley finally got married, but they had several children die.
Oh, wow.
Along the way, like a lot of them, because she was kind of just always pregnant, always out in the elements, in really squalorly conditions, because they were just being a couple of hippies basically. And so she lost a lot of children. There's parts in the literature, like William, in the literature, Frankenstein, basically the monster, comes back to town to get to Victor Frankenstein and ends up killing his little baby brother William. Well, William was the name of Mary Shelley's baby who died.
Oh, wow.
And so it goes on and on and on and on and on. It's just one of my favorite things. I'm just fascinated by it, really.
That's
and
awesome.
So a lot of people think she was cursed. I think she was having a tragic life as a result of circumstances. I mean, I think when we're thinking about like any kind of curse, I still believe in past lives, and I also believe that before we arrived here in this lifetime, that we agreed to do certain things, and we agreed to meet certain people, do certain things, and so maybe some of, we all have choice and free will as well, so we could choose something better, but in this case, because of her circumstances, and in my opinion, her vulnerability, she ran off with this guy, made some really poor decisions, and as a result had kind of a miserable life.
Wow. Very, very, very fascinating. And the last curse I wanted to ask you about today, and this is another thing that, as a filmmaker and as a comedian, that fascinates me, especially a comic book nerd, the Bruce Lee and the Lee family curse. Bruce and Brendan both died on film sets. Both mysteriously and tragic.
That was weird. You know, I was doing some research recently about the most cursed or haunted film sets, like when they film like The Exorcist, or the ones I really love are Insidious, those new Insidious films by James Wan. I think they're genius. But so I do think, like, I know the Brendan Lee one, I remember that. The Crow, when he was in The Crow, that was a really creepy film. And so I'm wondering if there was...
It's based on a very creepy comic book, too.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
I feel like there was potentially some, let's just call it lower-leveled, potentially evil energy there that might have come through, just like it's come through on some of the other sets of some really famous horror.
Yeah, it's like The Poltergeist, The Exorcist.
Exactly.
And The Exorcist is probably the most famous film set that's probably been cursed.
Yes. Like, you know, you're talking about some real negativity there, and so, of course, you're going to be opening some doors that you probably don't want to open. What happened to Bruce Lee again? I can't remember.
He had a headache. He was given something he was probably allergic to medication-wise and died.
Which film was he making at the time?
It would have been Enter the Dragon.
Was it a dark film?
It's a basic kung fu movie.
I don't know.
You know,
I don't see, that one to me doesn't feel as sinister as The Crow. The Crow to me, there's something about that one that just feels like it just opened up a door and something dark came in. I don't know. Just an impression.
Yeah. And anyone wants to contact you for a reading and or gems, that's if you're still in the gem market.
Yes, I still have gemstones. My website is www.pastlifelady.com. And I've got a Facebook page that's also called Past Life Lady. So they can contact me there.
Excellent. As always, I thank you. And Shelley's not just a friend, I am also one of her clients. I recommend her. I mean, if anyone's thinking of getting a psychic reading or doing something with past life, just come to the best. It's Shelley Kier, or Care, or however you pronounce her last name.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yep.
And a good friend, Adam, I'm happy for all your success. Good job. Really, really nice. And it's great to be back on the show, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Hang on for just 1 second as I shut...
Take a picture. Button. Stop record.